So I'm talking to a few senior leaders from Bupa today, and I'm joined here by Nigel Sullivan. Nigel, tell me what your role is at Bupa.
So my job title is Chief Sustainability and People Officer. Effectively, I'm responsible for sustainability for the group, and I'm the HR guy as well.
Okay. And what does that entail?
Lots of meetings.
Okay.
No, I mean, look, I think from a sustainability point of view, I mean, my job is really to marshal the strategy that we've got, make sure that we're hitting our KPIs, make sure that everybody's, lined up and doing what they should be doing. And from a people point of view, we've got 84,000 people all around the world. Again, similarly, the strategy that we have around that and some of the key programs and projects that we have to deliver for our people is what I'm accountable for effectively.
And how have you built your own resilience over the years and to build your own sort of mindset for success?
The way I've sort of tried to do it is to stay eternally curious, to be honest, and try to keep learning, keep pushing myself, be agile in the way I think, try not to get too fixed in my views or too staid in my ways. Those things I've tried to stay fresh, as it were, in the way that I've approached things professionally. I think it's broadly worked, but I'm always watching out for it and always looking at the boundaries of my role and my thinking to try and push myself just to not get stale in what I do. It's something I've had to learn to do. I mean, in big chunks of my career, I've been around in the sort of roles that I've been doing for many decades now. But I think I took failure badly in the past. When things went wrong, it stayed with me, and and often I struggled to move on from it. And to put it to one side, compartmentalize it, learn from it. And I've got better at that over the years. You can ask me why, and I'm not going to be able to answer your question probably. But I think it's important people do that. Failure is a natural thing, and if you don't try, you'll never fail. And if you don't fail, you end up not trying, So I think the two things are kind of linked together and really important.
And learning that over the years, do you think that's changed the way that you lead your teams?
Yes, it has. I'm sharing the learning of my mistakes, really. The way I try to lead my team is very much from the front and by example. So I do try to create an environment of psychological safety, as it's called today, but really what that means to me is that people can be themselves, and they really can be themselves, because I try to be myself with people. That brings with it some risks, so I'm a great believer in unconditional trust, so that's a big thing for me. It's a big value in my life, and therefore it bleeds into my work, so it's bit me a couple of times, where that unconditional trust has not been reciprocated, but 99% of the time it is. And I think just creating that environment helps people to be themselves, means that if they do fail, and failure is inevitable, that we can learn from that together. But also there's the joy in the success, because you get more success out of that, in my view, than failure. So, enjoying each other's success is a really, really good feeling as a team and as an individual. So that's what I try to practice.
Because I guess if you don't trust people, then you can't have that psychological safety. But at the same time, trust is a choice that makes, it's an action, isn't it, that makes you vulnerable to a degree. You're trusting someone with something that's important to you, and holding that vulnerability and holding the faith that they will take responsibility for that.
I've had a lot of work done as well on me, in terms of coaching and things that I've read, people I've observed, things that I've learned not to do and learned by trial and error myself. And that vulnerability that you referred to, I think is important. If you like, I had a persona and an act as a manager that wasn't exactly the way I was as a person. And bringing the two things together, as well as being immensely rewarding and releasing of me, has brought that vulnerability without necessarily weakness. And that's the thing I've learned, that the vulnerability and being yourself, really being yourself at work, has been a strength. Because the best version of me is always going to be the best performing of me, and why wouldn't I want to be like that in my job? So I've kind of gone on that journey myself, if that makes sense. And so what I've tried to do for, many years now is try to share that with other people and get them to do the same thing. Because if we were all the best versions of ourselves, we'd do the best work, and there's lots of other links, I think, to other things like inclusion and diversity and those sort of elements as well. The more you can be yourself, the more included you feel, the better performance as well. That's what I've tried to do. I don't always get it right, and maybe that's part of the vulnerability as well, Julie, that, I'm the first to put my hand up to say, look, I'm messed up there, share my mistakes and learnings with people as well, so that, they know, it happens to me too. Yeah.
And when you have those kind of trusting relationships in teams, I notice that people want to look after each other too. A lot of the questions I get from people are around, how can I support my team members, or how can I support the people that I'm managing? And people want to educate themselves about how to look after other people too, and how to care for each other, and that all feels new. These questions all feel very kind of new.
The more you can invert the organizational triangle, in my view, the better. I think that's our job as leaders is to support people to do those things rather than tell them what to do.
And often when people don't have the education or the awareness to begin with, that's when we sort of almost lean out of those difficult conversations. If you notice someone might need support or is struggling, you're so afraid to say the wrong thing that you say nothing at all. And so part of having all these big conversations and sharing insights and education helps people to kind of lean into those difficult conversations and ask the question, are you sure you're okay? How's things going? Would you like support? And that kind of brings everyone together and helps them look after each other.
And we have this from time to time. There's the obvious stuff, it's a bit of a cliche, the no I in team and all that sort of stuff, the doing things together, not being overly competitive with each other, having shared goals and all that sort of stuff. That's pretty obvious. I think one of the things that is less obvious sometimes is and this is where the sort of, perfection is a bit of an enemy of progress at times, being 99.99% right on the first go is, for most things, for some things you need that, but most things, no. I think being able to experiment, try things, dare I say it, fail on occasion, is probably more important for the team and its success than quicker and more agile to work in that way than to just strive for perfection. And that's not easy because we are often educated, trained, etc. to always achieve perfection. The expectations on people these days and the expectations of society for failure are really low now. It's a real low bar. Somebody who fails now gets written off. Different cultures have different attitudes to that, obviously, across the world. But I think that's really important to understand that, not to get into a blame thing if things do go wrong, and to learn from it, and do it again. And I think there's a virtuous circle if you do that as a team as well, and you get better. Because you learn from each other and you get braver as you go on.
There's that key distinction, isn't there, between striving for excellence and perfectionism. And people will often say, "I'm a perfectionist," as if it's a sort of, a really positive thing. But actually, it's a shield that helps to keep you feeling safe. But actually, it stops you probably from taking risks or being creative or pushing yourself into new challenges, because it makes failure unacceptable.
Yeah. I don't look to fail ever. I always look to try and get it right. That's I was kind of brought up like that and educated like that as nearly everybody else is. Right first time is what you should achieve for your excellence point. But, and wrong every time isn't right either, if you know what I mean. But there's somewhere in the middle that you're right about. Perfection can just get in the way of progress. And let's strive for excellence and get there. And it might take us a couple of goes. But the other thing is there's very rarely anything in business as in life is a moonshot. There's not many things like that. It's about going forward, making progress, getting some runs on the board, feeling that feeling of achievement, and not necessarily getting to the moon on the first shot. That's not what most of us need to do most of the time in our jobs.
And I hear that you're very much into hiking and walking and doing those kind of challenges. How do you sort of mentally prepare for something like that and the kind of challenges that you might face in doing those kind of things?
Yeah, it's a similar thing. I used to be more extreme at this stuff, to be honest with you, than I am today. I'm aging now, are
we talking mountains?
Yeah, it's all that stuff, exactly. But I think I suppose I've never really thought about it before, but it's a good question. Look, planning is part of it for me. I am a avid collector and reader of maps, really boring, but I love a map, and a contour and all the rest of it. So, I enjoy the plotting of a route. I tend to do those things myself. Sometimes I use books. But then I'm like visualizing what's going on there, in terms of what that might be like and what the route might entail, and trying to get variety into that route as well as the challenge. So I visualize a lot of that stuff before I sort of do it, and I measure, and this is why I'm sorry, but I measure that, how many kilometers would that be and how long would that take, do I think, and stuff like that. How could I do it safely? And then it's the challenge of doing it, and the enjoyment of that, and the enjoyment of, the pain of going up a mountain and, physically, and then the sense of achievement at the top, at the summit. And knowing you've done that safely, and knowing you've done that to the best that you can do and within the limits of what you're capable of, all of that gives me a great deal of joy. The other thing is the being in nature and being in the environment, and all of that is, I suppose, a spiritual aspect to that, which is very fulfilling for me.
And it sounds as though it probably adds to the things that you do at Bupa, and the sort of, you're planning, you're strategizing, so you're thinking about why you're doing something, and there's so much satisfaction then in the process. It's actually quite painful to walk up a mountain. It's a lot of work, but there's something in the process that's very satisfying.
I got into this stuff and really, heavily into it in my 20s, and I think it's prepared me for business a lot better. I think that the resilience you need, the both physical and mental to do these things, because sometimes it goes wrong. Failing in the mountains can be fatal. So never mind. You can get lost, you can get into trouble. The weather changes, whatever. But I think going through some of those experiences has helped me. It's bled straight into the work environment for me. Where the resilience that I've built in the outdoors, I can kind of bring to the indoors as well, So it's definitely had an effect. I think I've been a better business leader because I've been a mountain leader as well.
So you've seen all this change over the years, and now you see, well-being as so crucial to any organisation moving forward. So what do you think that means for the future for you at Bupa?
So we survey people a lot, so we ask their opinions a lot, and we take that very, very seriously. And it's the tone from the top, is very strong on this. And we have very sophisticated technology and tools to get that information, to analyze it. And we score very, very well. We benchmark what we do, and we're now in sort of world-class levels of engagement and people feeling they belong at Bupa. But that world-class is around 80 something. On a score out of 100. But that means that, to me, that's 2 out of 10 people still don't feel fully engaged in Bupa. So I still think there's loads and loads for us to do, because that's still a sizable chunk of people. That's thousands of people in our organisation. I'm going to look at our turnover data, and particularly on some of our frontline roles that we have, it's too high. I think there's still loads for us to do. So I'm really pleased with the progress we've made. I'm very proud of the progress we've made. And we've got momentum. But I see that we have more to do. And I'm looking forward to that journey, because not only doing more, but doing better and doing different is part of the challenge and part of the motivation for taking it forward.
And that comes back to what you were saying earlier about it starting with the individual and staying curious and always wanting to learn more. So keep asking the questions, finding out where there are problems or gaps, and then doing what's necessary to try to fix that or make a change, and then move forward and try again and learn some more. And so it continues.
It does. And it connects up, again, these many decades of experience in this field, of employment. It's connecting the things together, joining the dots between your job, how easy it is to do your job, how connected are you with your colleagues, how's the job designed, how you're rewarded, how valued do you feel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How well led are you? So all of that is connected together, and it leads to an output of belonging, engagement, and performance.
Nigel, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. It's been really valuable.
Thanks for having me.